Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco. I'm an integrative physician, pediatrician, and cranial osteopath. Thank you for joining me on the MultiDimensional MD. My mission is to help wake up medicine and help make the intangible aspects of health, the mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions, more tangible, practical, and intuitive for you. Last time I talked about how to read your body map, your body organ map, and its emotions. And today I want to continue that conversation with talking about inflammatory bowel disease. If you haven't already liked or subscribed, please do. And leave a hello or a comment below. And I'd love to hear from you because I never know who's there unless you say something. So today, anyway, I'm going to talk about inflammatory bowel disease. I'd like to do a short series on various illnesses and talking about how to read that body map and how to read those intangible dimensions. So we're going to go through inflammatory bowel disease, and we'll go through body and emotions, mind, and spirit, and go through it like that. And again, this is just to put a disclaimer out there. This is not meant to be medical advice. And so this is all informational only. And if you need any medical advice, please go see your medical practitioner, physician, whoever you need to. If you need any mental health help, also go see a qualified counselor. So again, this is informational only. So to go through, let's start with the statistics on inflammatory bowel disease and what inflammatory bowel disease is. So inflammatory bowel disease is inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract. And there are two main types of inflammatory bowel disease. It's Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. And there can be crosses between the two. So sometimes they're figuring out the diagnosis. Some differences in Crohn's versus ulcerative colitis would be Crohn's can be anywhere. There can be inflammation anywhere in the gastrointestinal tract, from the mouth all the way down to your anus. For ulcerative colitis, it's more in the colon. It's specifically in the colon. In Crohn's, the inflammation is through all the different layers, but it shows up patchy if you were to look at it in a scope. And for ulcerative colitis, it'll be like more continuous instead of those patchiness of Crohn's, but it affects like the deeper layers. And those are more specifics, but it does affect a lot of people. According to the CDC, it affects about 1.3% of the US population, and that's about 3 million people. So a lot of people could use some widened perspectives of how to look at inflammatory bowel disease. And I'm just going to share with you my experience in terms of what I've seen in my practice, and see if this resonates for you. Everyone is unique. You have your own story and how things evolve, but often when you hear these stories and details from other people, it can be helpful for you on your journey as well. The symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease are persistent diarrhea. Often there can be blood in the stool as well. You'll have abdominal pain, sometimes cramping, and this often because you keep going to the bathroom, you can lose weight and be really tired. It's very hard for people to get nourished because everything seems to go right through them. And so it can be really difficult, very challenging to have. And when I see people, sometimes they've been presented with a choice of either removing the colon and living with a colostomy bag, or they're interested in looking at other ways, or maybe they're on some heavy medications and they'd like to see how they could manage it in other ways, or just interested in looking at diet more. And sometimes, people stay on their medications, and that's completely fine. It's whatever works for you. And I'm always happy to work with any specialist or anyone that is on your team to help you, because really it's about you feeling better. So what I'm going to start with the body again, and just first of all, dietary changes. So Usually, I find that people with inflammatory bowel disease benefit from making some major dietary changes and lifestyle changes. And this can vary from person to person. Of course, some basics of getting more whole foods diet, less processed food, but sometimes it can be helpful to look at food sensitivities or even constitutional differences. Like some people are just constitutionally, their body doesn't do as well with dairy, or some people don't do as well with nightshades, tomatoes, and eggplant. Those are some really common things. Gluten is another big one. Sometimes these are more along the lines of food sensitivities. So it can also have an emotional component to the food sensitivities. And if that's the case, it's possible it is not a lifelong sensitivity, but needing a chance to let the gut calm down, to make some lifestyle changes and to address it that way. So it's, again, everyone is different and how they change their diet. There are some general recommendations of just going more towards a whole foods diet. But then the specifics of like, are there certain things that one person needs to avoid? Some of the top things, again, I see are gluten, dairy, nightshades, egg. But again, that's going to be individual. So specific to the individual, so it's individualized medicine. In terms of supplements that could help, the top ones would be lecithin, a sunflower lecithin, which is used as an emulsifier in food, but it's also important for that phospholipid layer and the mucosa. So that layer often needs to heal, and there have been some studies showing that lecithin can be supportive. Some other things that I'll go through, and I know I'm going through these very quickly, but it's just to give you an idea of widening your perspective of how you can approach this disease process for yourself. Omega-3 is also very important for every cell membrane to have some fluidity to it, and also some herbal bitters. So this could be dandelion or ginger, and again, it could depend on the person. If you need like more of a warming herb like ginger, or more of a cooling herb like dandelion, or maybe a blend of them. And what digestive bitters do is it helps your own body to release digestive enzymes. So it helps you digest your food better. And these bitters are actually supposed to be a natural part of our diet and what we eat. So anything that tastes bitter, from the bitterness of lemon or lemon rind, or the bitterness of certain greens like kale, chard, it signals to your body to release digestive enzymes to get ready to digest food. So important, right, in inflammatory bowel disease. And everyone, again, in their process, they'll be at different stages. So please, consult with your physician or healthcare practitioner as you go through these. These are not is not a protocol approach, just to give you ideas. And then going to the emotional layer. So this is about being able to read that body map of your organs. And when we start to think about the colon and what's going on with the stool, it's like tending to be loose. There's all this inflammation. And so you see it's very difficult to process life and what you're going through in life. There tends to be some stressors, and this can be hidden stressors. So again, these are just trends that I see in inflammatory bowel disease. What I see is that these people tend to have some worries, anxieties going on, sometimes outwardly, but sometimes more hidden. They're trying to keep everything together, but it's literally like the bodies are like, no, it's too much. I need to. It's not quite right. There's something that I want to change about the situation, and so the body is responding by trying to kick things out. Literally like trying to flush it out. And it's very important in these illnesses to be able to address these emotional layers. And it's a learning process, because what they've actually done some studies, and this is kind of a neat word, alexithymia. They found that people with alexithymia, which is the inability or difficulty naming your emotional state. So it's that mind-body alignment. It's like not being able to name what you feel viscerally in your body, in your organs. So when it's misaligned, that's when we have this imbalance, and it's about lining it up. So that's a great first step of just practicing at any given moment. How am I feeling? What do I feel in my body? So how do I feel emotionally? And also, where do I feel that in my body? Just saying it out loud or writing it down, like, yes, I feel worried, or yes, I'm concerned about this thing. I'm stressed, I feel sad, or whatever it is. Being able to honor and acknowledge your own authentic experience, then that can be so helpful in aligning mind body. And that's where we experience like more balance and health. And so this is a getting to know yourself in any kind of illness that can really help direct you towards health. So if you start to look at the symptoms like this, where it is showing you where the healing is, and if you're having diarrhea, it's like how I'm having difficulty processing things in my life. And I know, like, once the illness starts to run away with itself, it can be difficult because it starts to be like, it's that chicken or egg thing. It's like, do I feel this way because of my illness, or is the way I feel like contributing to my illness? And we do know that it can trigger flares, like depending on how you're feeling, like mentally, emotionally, can trigger IBD flares. But in terms of like how exactly it's caused is not quite certain. But if we know that it can create a trigger, then this is something to work with. And along these lines, like mental, emotional, it's really sort of lined up, but it's different, right? Because emotion to me is that visceral feeling in the body, and the mind is more that the thoughts or acknowledging of like what your state is in, or what you think about your life. So if you are feeling stressed, but you don't acknowledge it, then your body will for you. So it will signal to you, I don't feel quite right. There's something that I could look at from a different perspective, or maybe I'm trying to control the situation too much, and that doesn't feel good to me. It's like I need to. With the diarrhea, you would think that it's letting go in a way, but it's actually like forcibly like flushing things out, like pushing life out, because it's overwhelming. So it's taking a step back and seeing that bigger picture of your life, like how is it overwhelming? Or maybe you do know it is overwhelming and not really sure how to handle it. But so start to look at your mindset, because a lot of times in inflammatory bowel disease, I see that people have a tendency to have like more type A personalities, or be more perfectionist. And so outwardly they can seem like very high functioning and leaders and doing things in their life. And again, this is not everybody with IBD, but it can be a type of person that comes in with IBD. So to have that, to shift that mindset from being perfectionist, which is in another way like a fear of failure. So a fear of, if things aren't just right, just how you want them to be, then it's like a feeling that you failed. And it may be a hidden feeling, because it may not be that apparent to the conscious mind. It may be more a subconscious feeling. So you have to really soften and be really honest with yourself, like, in my body, like subconsciously, is this a feeling that I have? And yeah, you can shift it. Once you realize, especially like, oh, it's a fear of failure. So what you could do is to practice like doing small things where you mess up on purpose. Maybe it's like spill a drink, drop something on purpose, and then you have to clean it up. And then you see like it's going to be okay, so that you can mess up and you can do things and it can turn out not how you want it to be, but it can still be okay. And sometimes it's your life kind of guiding you in a different direction, or maybe a different mindset where it's like it's okay to feel like you messed up sometimes and move on and still love yourself and still be able to give yourself a big hug at the end of the day. So yeah, things to consider. Again, this is not an all or nothing approach, and these are just trends that I see. So see if it resonates with you, and maybe you can widen your perspective, because often if you're feeling stuck, it's about widening the perspective of how you're looking at yourself and understanding yourself and understanding the disease process within you. It is your body telling you how it's feeling. It is your body literally trying to communicate with you, begging you what it's feeling and what you feel subconsciously, that it just wants to bring up to the conscious mind. So you understand yourself, so you can acknowledge yourself, so you can feel and be yourself and let yourself be, and not try to force things in a way where like subconsciously and viscerally your body doesn't feel ready, or just softening in terms of like how things are going, letting yourself be where I love myself anyway. Even though I'm going through these things, even though there's some difficulties, I love myself anyway, even though I don't always know what to do, but I feel like I should look like I always know what to do. I love myself anyway. And so then that brings us to the spirit, the intuitive spirit. And so much in IBD, I see people who are actually quite sensitive or even empathic even, and their bodies are feeling it, but they're not listening to the cells. They're not trusting themselves. They're not following those signs of their intuition in their body. And it's that lining up of mind, body, and spirit. So you can learn to trust yourself and listen to those smaller signs, so that your body doesn't have to, your mind, body, spirit, you don't have to flare up into these big symptoms that's trying to flag down your attention. So within those symptoms are also this intuitive spirit coming through in whispers at first, but then it ramps up to these full-blown flares, where there can be a lot of discomfort, pain in the belly, and that's it's more difficult, of course, when things are more intense to listen. So practice when things are not so bad, and then that will give you some foundation or grounding. So if there are, and the symptoms start to become more intense, you have this framework that you've built, this foundation of things that you can go to. And you can start at any layer. You do not have to do everything all at once. At some point, I find the deeper healing is when you do address every layer. But if that's too hard for you at this moment, because there's too much going on, then pick one of those layers: the body, the emotion, the mind, shifting in the mindset, or learning to trust yourself. Pick one of those where you can start to practice. And then for that intuitive spirit, it's like, maybe pick an hour where, okay, I will listen to my gut instinct for this hour and just follow, as long as it's aligned with kind of what you want in life, right? So different versus like a thought flitting through, which could be harmful to you, versus like this gut instinct that is supportive and loving. So as long as it's like loving for yourself, then practice maybe even for like 10, 15 minutes where you walk around and what is my gut instinct? I'm going to do just that. Could just be like, I'm going to get some water. I need to hydrate myself. Or, you know what? I need to get up and move around. My body just feels really stiff and I'm tired of sitting down. So I'm going to just take a break and go on a walk outside. So I'm going to finish off with this last quote from Anita Moorjani, which I love. And it's, I'm a soul, not a role. So remember that, and when you get stuck in these ideas of what you're supposed to be because of all the roles you have and responsibilities in your life, that you are a soul, and you are not, those roles do not define you. So to take care of your soul, and yes, maybe you have some responsibilities in your life, but you can respond to those abilities, and in a way where you have presence, you're bringing your soul because you're responding as a soul and not just like this machine trying to fulfill the checkbox of whatever that role is demanding of you. So some food for thought, and I hope that was helpful for you. If there's anyone out there that you think could benefit from this information, please share. And again, this is not meant to be medical advice. So again, a disclaimer, this is not medical advice, but informational only. If you need medical help, please seek your medical practitioner, physician, or if you need mental help, then seek help from a counselor. And thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you next time, 11 a.m. on Wednesday, EST. And have a great rest of your day. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the Multidimensional MD.